Welcome to ETMA Tech Talk. Here is your host, ETMA's Managing Director, Joe Basili.
Enterprise mobility is becoming more complex. Large wireless carriers are introducing exciting new capabilities, but they are also reducing support resources. Enterprises and smaller organizations increasingly struggle to control costs, reduce security threats, manage elaborate logistics, and improve employee and customer experience. Joining us is Chris Koeneman, Chief Revenue Officer at LINQ, a company focused on simplifying enterprise mobility with software that integrates with AT&T and Verizon and optimizes monthly spend. Chris has spent a career helping companies align operational execution with business growth. We discuss why mobility management services, or MMS, is important for medium to large organizations. Chris will also challenge some misconceptions in this podcast, including a common belief that mobile expense optimization requires switching carriers.
Joe, great to be with you. Thanks for having me on. I'm representing LINQ, 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 MMS company, specialty areas. And this is most MMS companies do these things. So we'll do expense management. And by that, I mean, we will optimize the billing that a customer has with AT&T or Verizon. We will also reformat billing for a company. A lot of times they have cost accounting that's pretty complex and it goes beyond what the carrier can do. So we'll allocate that billing, make sure it gets associated with the right business unit or the right project. We will do kitting and logistics, so that moving around that hardware, making sure it gets to the right place at the right time. We do customer support. So rather than your end users or your admin folks having to call Verizon or AT&T, they call LINQ. We're there 24/7, US-based English-speaking folks that are ready to take those calls. We'll do MD support. So oftentimes a customer, especially on their BYOD devices, they'll have a piece of specialized software that bifurcates that phone, personal, business. We'll help manage that piece of software on there. And then finally, Starlink. We'll manage Starlink. We're finding that as a very common way that companies are connecting. And so we'll do Starlink management as well. So those are our specialty areas, ones that you typically find with most MMS companies.
And are there any particular customer service support stories that you could share?
Yeah, we've often had those, or we'll all of a sudden have a CEO that called us in a panic because he said, "Hey, all of my applications, they're jiggling. What's going on?" And so that was an easy one, but he had never seen that before and accidentally pressed the wrong surface areas to make them all jumble around, and he was panicked. So we talked him through that. That was easy, but you'll get all kinds of questions in customer support. And then we'll take them from administrators as well as end users. And the more shocking ones, so the more interesting ones tend to come from the end users.
For sure. And then from a kitting perspective, can you explain to us a little bit about some of the kitting that you do for customers?
Yes, a lot of our customers then, when they want it to be quick, when they bring on a new employee, so we'll actually hold some inventory for them. They own it. So we have specialized secure lockers for those customers and we will hold those devices. Then they usually want them configured in a very specific way for an employee. And sometimes it's by persona. So we will configure those and then get those out to that new employee. So when they start, boom, they have their technology. It's configured exactly the way that customer wants. A lot of times we're doing legal hold. So when that customer is finished with a mobile device, it has to be held for a period of time because it might be needed in discovery. So we have legal hold. So we have devices that they no longer want, no longer use, but we need to hold them for, it can be up to 6 months that we'll hold some older stuff. We'll do the logistics services for a customer.
LINQ has introduced a new business model.
Yeah.
Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, this is real interesting. So at the core of what we do, I think our primary service is expense management. So through software, human interaction experience, we minimize that spend that a customer has. Most MMS companies, they do that mobility management and they'll charge per device per month, $2, $3, depending on what all the services they do. We were looking at that business model. We thought, you know what, we might try something different. And so because we're 21 years into this, so we know when we get a new customer, we study their patterns, we know how much we're going to save them. So what we started doing, we said to the customer, look, all of these great services that we have, tell you what, how about we fund our ability to deliver those services for you through the savings that we generate? We're going to guarantee you, Mr. Customer, a certain savings. Let's say that's 5%. Anything we make beyond 5%, That's how we're going to fund our customer support. So really different model. We actually don't charge a per device per month. Instead, we guarantee some savings. Any additional savings on top of that's what we use to fund those services. As far as I know, that model is unique. And what makes that model so appealing for a customer is they're not out any money. And we're taking all the risk. If for some reason we can't find enough savings, that's on us. Customer does not pay a per device per month. They have a guaranteed rate of savings. Anything beyond, that's how we fund those services.
And where do you typically find like savings to pay for the program?
The one opportunity for savings oftentimes that we have found is a lot of customers' unlimited plans. Sounds like a great idea, right? Let's give everybody unlimited data. And it's funny how oftentimes unlimited data isn't really unlimited. In fact, I remember one carrier, they had unlimited data, and then they came out with a new service called real unlimited data. But you can easily overbuy on unlimited data. A lot of times it's more effective, but you need the software to do it, is to have shared data pools. A lot of people aren't even using that much data. They don't need the unlimited plans. For a particular month, they may be better off in a shared data pool. So oftentimes, and there's a number of other ways that we're saving money, but that's a big one. A big one is keeping that unlimited data to those lines, those users who are really going to benefit by it, and use other techniques for the other users.
So what you're doing is, I guess you take a snapshot of before and after you implement a client, and you're comparing the service plans, and you're able to say, here's your savings that we use.
So we'll look at their we'll look at their billing patterns, got a pretty good idea that, okay, how much we can save them. And then we can say, look, all right, we're going to guarantee, we will guarantee you a certain level of savings because we can see what their patterns are. We study that, or we'll go into a trial period to gather that data. Then we can make that hard proposal to the customer. But it's great for that customer. They're not out any money. They're actually saving money, and it's funding services so they can out-task mobility.
And for LINQ, are there any particular market segments that you tend to focus on for clients?
It tends to be, now the one great thing about mobility is everybody uses it, right? It goes across all verticals, but we tend to find it's distributed enterprise. Now, what do I mean by that? It means usually it's an enterprise that has a lot of locations. That could be professional services that might have offices around the country. We do really well with construction companies. Construction companies absolutely use mobile devices that are attached to carrier networks. They tend to be spread out all over the place. They tend not to have a permanent location, so they're using those mobile devices. That's a great sector for us. But any kind of distributed enterprise, usually medium to large enterprise, you've got to have enough in play so that we can work our magic to generate those savings. If you're really a small to medium, probably not. More medium to large enterprise is where we focus.
And how do you define medium to large in terms of?
Usually if I define it by number of devices, usually more than 750 mobile devices that are connected to that corporate mobility plan, that corporate plan. So not BYOD, but rather the company is paying for that mobile services. So 750 devices.
From a channel perspective, what sort of channel partner relationships interest you from a buying and selling perspective?
We took a look at channels as well, Joe. What could we do? In the same way we did with our business model, what can we do different? And we did something very different. There's no per device charge like every other MMS thing. We took a look at the channel, and what I found, I remember back in the days when everybody was doing hardware and less about SaaS and everything was about hardware. And one thing that the channel loved was when there was a big capital purchase, boy, did that feel great to the channel partner because that big transaction, boom, and they got their 20% or whatever it was, and they were all happy. And in some ways, our move to SaaS and recurring revenue for channel, it just didn't have the same pizzazz as the old model where they were doing capital equipment. So we kind of reached back and thought, maybe we can do that again. And so what we've done with channel partners is we've said, I tell you what, we've got a good idea of what this lifetime contract is going to be for us, for LINQ. How about we front end load all of that? What if we just take all of that and we make it feel like one of those experiences that you had back when you sold capital equipment? So we've had channel partners that have some expertise in SaaS, but really get that and say, yeah, no, that's something I'd like to have.
MMS tends to be a blend of say, technology, automation, and human experience. Can you talk to that a little bit?
It's definitely technology and automations. Basically, what we're doing is there's a magical few days when that carrier, as they're starting to develop their invoice, where you can affect that invoice that's coming. There's a few days there where you can say, okay, if I make these changes, that's going to affect that invoice that's on its way. It's not a lot of time. So we have integrations with the carriers and we have intelligence behind that to say, oh, okay, these 5 lines, those should be setting in this data pool. So it goes through all of that optimization. It's integrated with the carrier, makes those changes, right? That's automation, that's technology, that's brilliant. Everybody loves it. But where the human element comes in is carriers will oftentimes issue a new promotion or a new discount or some new offer. And automation doesn't necessarily find that because they make that. A lot of times it's intended for new customers. It's available for existing customers, but it's an advertisement. It's all over the place. The human element is we will find out about that. Our humans find out about that. And then they'll say, okay, I wonder, could I apply that to this customer over here who seems to be in the same situation? Now, a lot of times we have to actually call the carrier and say, hey, I've got this promotion. Can I use this here? And then that'll be done. But I don't know any other way than a human finding it and a human calling. It's not an automated thing because I think the carriers want those to be selectively used. So yeah, it's a human thing as well as a technology thing.
So you're saying that's an example of human experience
Yeah.
that impacts the value that LINQ brings to the table.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And then let's talk about the flip side of that. Artificial intelligence is really hot right now. How is LINQ applying artificial intelligence to your business?
One thing that's really important in our business, I think it's most every business, is especially ones where you have customers and it's on a recurring basis, is customer retention, customer churn. Everybody measures it. It's always top of mind. Can you hold on to those customers? Can you keep delivering that value that keeps them there? And I think anybody in this business, any kind of recurring revenue business, when you start getting dozens and dozens of customers, is you get that surprise departure. Is all of a sudden that it hurts. It hurts because it's that customer you always, that was a great customer, and then boom, you get a Dear John letter, or they send you a message and they're departing, and you're thinking, what went wrong? Now, a lot of times you can figure it out. There were signs that this customer was about to depart, but a lot of times there isn't. There isn't to the human eye, but AI can figure that out. So we recently deployed, working closely with a company that develops AI software. This software then is going over all of our records. So every interaction that we have with a customer, that gets captured, including if we had a Teams call, all of that stuff, conference calls that we would have on our UCaaS system. So you think about it and you have a customer for multiple months or even multiple years, you've got a lot of data. The problem is it's totally unstructured and it's very difficult to analyze that. That's what AI is perfect for. So we've applied AI that'll go in and look at all of that data, massively unstructured, seemingly unrelated, and goes through, that AI will go through and say, you know what, customer AB, there's like a 50% possibility they're going to depart in the next 2 months. It's looking at patterns. It looks at all your other departures. What were those signs, those subtle signs that were happening on those other departures, matching that up. And it's really helping us say, oh, we need to focus on that customer. We've been servicing them, but I think they're in danger of leaving. So AI we've deployed to help address, I think, a really fundamental challenge, and that is customer churn in a way that I don't think any human could look at all of that data and identify those vulnerable customers.
That's fascinating. So you're using AI basically to increase your customer satisfaction scores.
Ideally, we're taking action that will increase those customer satisfaction scores. Yes, but primarily we're doing it to reduce our customer churn. Obviously, they're not going to churn if they're satisfied. But here's one, Joe, is that we found is a lot of times churn happens, everybody's happy, but a new CIO comes in. A new CIO comes in and all of a sudden wants to change things. AI is looking at LinkedIn. It's looking at all of the others saying, oh, there's a change in the upper deck. That means that you've got a 12% chance of losing that customer. So it's looking at all these things that you don't always think about and says, all right, here's a risk. And it gives that risk profile.
When you think about MMS, obviously you think about your customers, and you think about what LINQ brings to the table.
Yep.
But then there's that third variable, right? Which is the carriers. So
Yes.
what sort of changes have you seen recently from mobile carriers that maybe impact your business?
The biggest change we've seen, and this has been more prominent with Verizon, but AT&T is in the same way. A lot of these carriers, in order to fund their AI or other initiatives that they're taking, have taken the decision, okay, we're going to pull back considerably on our market-facing resources. Those could be account managers, those could be salespeople, those are customer service folks. So a big pullback on that. Consequently, we hear customers say, geez, all these things that I would have Verizon do for me, studies or analysis or proposals, they're not there. Those folks are gone. They're not doing those things anymore. They've made a business decision to not do those things. And for us, then we've stepped in to fill that gap. So if they do need that analysis, if they do need that customer care, that's what we're doing. So we're the point of contact. We're providing the portal through which they can make moves, adds, or changes, or we will do that ourselves. But I think those decisions by AT&T and Verizon have really pushed MMS to the forefront. Hey, customers used to get that from AT&T and Verizon. Now they're getting it from MMS companies like LINQ.
And big mistakes that large organizations make where we can have listeners and maybe avoid them.
Bring your own device. So a lot of companies will say, hey, you have a mobile device, you use it. You have your own personal mobile device. And it's probably on a family plan of some kind, which it usually is. If you want, go ahead and use that for business. And a lot of employees are fine with that. And then, but then, they own that number, that employee does. They're getting business calls on that. Over time, that's what all the clients know is how to contact your company is through that number that employee owns that goes with them if that employee were to leave. A lot of times companies will say, oh, mobility is complicated. Why don't we just use the device that the employee has? And they don't really think through it feels good at first, but they don't think through all the ramifications, including, as I mentioned, the security on that phone, which you can buy MDM software and deploy that for that security. I see it a lot, and it just kind of checks a box like, okay, we're not doing mobility anymore. Great, right? A lot of times, larger customers will say, okay, I don't want to deal, and I'm done with it. Right? That's a common way. I'm always surprised at the number of customers that have a large deployment of BYOD and no MDM, and these folks are using these computers for company business, and they have not deployed any sort of MDM or any sort of corporate security on that as a way to, if that employee were to leave, that side of the device gets wiped and cared for. So I'd say one of them is like BYOD and forget it. Don't do that. If you are going to go BYOD, then you want to make sure you deploy the proper mechanisms. And there's loads of those tools that are out there. We manage them, but we don't sell that, but we'll manage that MDM. I'd say the second one for a lot of these large guys is, oh, I always want to spend less. Rather than so many of them say, okay, I'm going to send out an RFP and I'm going to get all of the carriers in a mosh pit. I'm going to make them fight it out, one of those things. And maybe you want to do that, but there's ways to really save money without making this huge change with a carrier. You may have a great relationship and AT&T or Verizon might be serving you well. It's worth looking at software like MMS that can optimize what you spend with your current carrier. Deploying that is 10 times easier than churning on that carrier. So getting a new carrier or beating up the carrier you have can be an arduous task when MMS can have a huge impact, and the degree of difficulty on deploying that is a fraction of what it is if you were trying to churn the carrier.
So they don't have mobile device management software.
Correct. They're just letting it go.
Partition the corporate from the personal.
Right. That's exactly right.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that sounds crazy, but I'm sure you see it a lot in the market.
I see it a lot, and it just kind of checks a box like, okay, we're not doing mobility anymore. Great.
As we start to wrap things up, what are some of the most important lessons you want the audience to take away and learn from this podcast?
I think the most important lesson is, I get it, telecom. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's like this thing that's necessary. But I think the thing I would take away is you really do want to optimize it. It is a significant cost. It's something that everyone uses in business. You want to tightly manage it, and you want the best price for that service. And then furthermore, it is self-contained. It lends itself to outtasking, not outsourcing. It's not that big. It's outtasking. It's a specialty thing. It lends itself to that. I think the lesson is, think about using MMS if you have corporate mobility.
If I gave you a billboard in Times Square and I said, just distill what LINQ does, what would that billboard say?
I tell you, Joe, I'm going to stick with our tagline, the carrier, lose the headache. If you like Verizon, you like AT&T, keep them. They're great companies. They run great networks. Just lose all the headache that you have around it. And that's what we do. So I would go right to our tagline, keep the carrier, lose the headache. If you can put that on Times Square, that'd be great, Joe. I'd appreciate it.
So let's switch gears a little bit and talk on the personal side. If your younger self was to listen to this podcast episode, what do you think would surprise them the most about your career?
I think they'd first be shocked by loss of hair would be the first thing. But once they got over that, the fact that I went into technology, that wasn't necessarily what I studied. But the fact, would be so more impressed with the technology than myself. But the fact that I did go into technology, I've gotten to experience such huge changes in technology. It's staggering. Any of us that are Gen X, we got to see the advent of all of these great innovations that we all take advantage of. I think that would impress my younger self probably the most.
And if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, what advice would you tell your younger self?
Well, here's what I told my younger self when I graduated university. I went to Indiana University. So I would tell my younger self, all right, you're going to be in the football desert of irrelevance for years and years. You're just going to pray for a season with 3 wins and you're going to be happy. You're going to go to games and never even watch it. You're going to have plenty of seats available to you, but then someone will emerge that will take this irrelevant system and all of a sudden in 2 years catapult you to the top. That's what I tell my younger self, and my younger self would not believe it.
That's for sure. And Team Indiana is also ranked #1 for the coming up season too, I understand.
It is, but let's not talk about it. We don't want to jinx it. So just keep that on the down low.
Okay. What are some key skills or knowledge that you think are most important for success in this space, in MMS and mobility in the next few years?
My answer is going to be, of course he's going to say that, but you really have to understand AI and how that can be applied to your business. It just absolutely is. I think in some ways it's 25 years ago as cloud computing was coming up. And it was really important to figure out, okay, how can we apply cloud computing to what we do internally or how we offer our service? And it really did change things. The economics of how you deliver services and applications absolutely changed with cloud computing in conjunction with the network through which you can access that cloud. Changed everything. And in fact, a lot of times we forget about it because we just operate over cloud. What we're doing right now, Joe, is impossible without cloud computing and without the network, right? I think it's similar with AI. AI is going to, and it already is changing our business. Although it's good, hey, I need help writing something, I go to ChatGPT to help me write something like that. That's okay. But I think advice I would give is being able to assess what task, it's not a person, it's not like you're replacing what this person is doing, but you're replacing a function or a task that might traverse several different people. And how can that be addressed with artificial intelligence? And that usually it tends to be something that is data rich, you need pattern recognition, but all of that data is unstructured and it's in different pockets in different places. But figuring out the skill, I think the key skill for those who are coming up is being able to assess an organization, all the operations inside that organization, and then how do you apply AI to really change the game, lower costs or deliver better? That's a key skill that folks, if you're coming up or even if you're there, you've got to learn and master.
And just as we wrap it up, what are you passionate about, hobbies or other things outside of work?
Yeah, I would say IU football, but we've already covered that. So so we got that one down. I'd say the other thing, Joe, is I really love to travel, love to see new places, new cultures. I love getting into figuring all out how another system in another country works and what's in the culture, all of that. So I would say that's my passion is travel.
Any particular countries or regions that you've been to recently that really
I'd tell you, always one of the most fascinating has to be the business culture in Japan. It's all of those intricacies, all of those practices, absolutely fascinating. And every time I go there, I find it's really intriguing.
It's an incredible country.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah,
there.
it really is.
It's just amazing.
Fascinating. Yeah.
So as we wrap it up,
Mhm.
where can the audience find out more about and your firm?
So our website, LINQ Services, and that's LINQ services.com, www.linkservices.com. We also have a homepage on LinkedIn, so someone can certainly stop in there.
Great. This was fantastic, Chris. I really enjoyed it. Very
Likewise.
informative.
Yes. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you.
If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions from the market's top problem solvers, making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Thanks for listening, and see you on the next episode.